Welcome to the Deerfield Theater Podcast. In this season, we're talking about Deerfield's production of Shrek the Musical. In case you're tuning in and didn't already know, Deerfield Theater's putting on a production of Shrek the Musical this November of 2025, and performances start Friday, November 14th, and go through Sunday, November 23rd. So while you're listening to this episode, visit the link in the show notes and get your tickets. Without further delay, here's the interview. I'm very excited to have with me on today's DFT podcast episode our very own Fiona from Shrek the Musical, McKenna Batterson. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, so as is tradition on the podcast, we like to take a peek behind the curtain and get to know our performers a little bit before we go and see the show. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I've been doing theater since I was very young. I started voice lessons at 11 years old. I went to a performing arts high school, and for a very long time, that was what I was planning on doing with the rest of my life. I went to Syracuse University, got my BFA in musical theater there, and then moved on to New York City and lived in New York City and did the whole professional actor in New York for a while. Ended up not loving New York City. It's a very, very difficult city to be in, and I'm a Chicago girl, like, at heart. So moved back home, went on a little bit of a journey to rediscover my love for theater, and ended up bringing me back to the community theater scene in Chicago, in the Chicagoland suburbs. Now I do it mostly for fun. During the day, during my normal person hours, I'm an event manager, so I help basically stage manage events in a way, so haven't technically left theater in the typical sense. And I'm also a writer. I write books, so I'm currently working on my first novel that's getting edited right now professionally, so that's pretty exciting as well.
Wow, that provides us with so many different options of paths that we could go down. But we'll just say, look, if anybody else loves New York, that's great for you. All right, it wasn't a fit
Yes,
for
yeah.
McKenna, and that's okay.
Wasn't a fit for me. Yeah, I love Chicago very much, and I just realized every single time I was in walking around New York, I was like, man, I wish New York had this. And I was like, oh, that I'm just describing Chicago.
Yeah, and look, it's one thing to visit New York and have fun. It's another thing when it's your home,
Mhm.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Very expensive city,
Oh, yeah.
very busy city, but also I saw some of the best theater I've ever seen when I lived there. So that was a huge plus.
Pros and cons, right? Pros and cons.
Yes.
So you decided to get more involved or involved at all with like community theater. So how did you find out about Deerfield Theater and what made you want to audition for Shrek?
Well, first of all, I love Shrek. It's one of my favorite shows. I think it's one of those shows that it kind of catches you by surprise by how much heart it has. I also love Fiona. So when I saw that you guys were doing it, I was so excited because she's a dream role of mine. And I've also worked with Karen Schumann, the director, a few times in the past. And when I saw that she was the one who was directing it, it was kind of all the pieces fell into place for me. I was like, a great show, a great director at a theater that I've seen amazing productions at. I'm sold.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just for what it's worth, I interview a lot of people performing with Deerfield Theater, and they do have a lot of
Yeah,
fun. So has that been your
yeah.
experience so far through like rehearsals and everything, getting ready for the show?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's hard to not have fun with a show like Shrek. I mean, you just kind of get to be your goofiest self on stage. And I love the people that I'm working alongside. They're so funny. So honestly, it's hard to remain serious on stage because my fellow actors just crack me up so much. So it's really been like a dream in all regards. It's impossible not to just have a blast doing this show and this role.
Yeah, and now you mentioned that Fiona was a role you really wanted to play. Is that because of the movies, because of the musical, a combination?
Honestly, I would say more because of the musical. I love Sutton Foster's portrayal of Fiona in the original Broadway production. I've been typecast as many Sutton Foster roles in the past, so I think there's also that draw to it. And I also just think the musical kind of gives her a little bit more backstory and a bit more of a journey than the movie does. I think you still really get to see her find her love for herself through seeing herself through Shrek's eyes, but I think you kind of get less of that end journey and a little bit more of the in between. You get to see her truly like from a child in the very beginning of her story, which is something you just don't get in the movie.
You mentioned that you get to see her as a child, so that means, yes, we do have other actors portraying younger versions of Fiona. So tell me what it's like
Mhm.
to have to work with younger versions of the character and then these younger actors.
Oh my god, it's amazing. It's so amazing. I love May and Alice, who are the two actresses playing young Fiona and teen Fiona. We get to sing a song together, which is, I will say, not my favorite song in the show, but it is up there just because of how beautifully the three of our voices get to harmonize together towards the end of the song. They're both amazing performers, amazing singers. Honestly, like, a lot of their choices and what they do on stage has inspired me and my performance of Fiona. So they're a huge, I mean, they're younger than me by 20 years, but they're huge, huge inspirations.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I could like go online and like look something up, but I was racking my brain trying to think like there's not a lot of shows, I feel like, where you get to perform with your younger self, but with, like,
Yeah.
other actors, right? H have you ever done something like this before in your other performances?
No, I don't think so. No, this is definitely my first time. I've done shows with like younger kids before, but it's definitely been like there's the kids ensemble and then the adults ensemble. And Shrek has a very unique feel of it just being one cohesive ensemble where everybody's working together. So I love that I get to perform on stage with these kids, but also like I get to talk to them about Fiona and be like, well, what do you think her character journey was when she was this age? And kind of get their thoughts on a character that all three of us are portraying because it's not, May's version of Fiona, Alice's version of Fiona, and my version of Fiona. It's all of our Fionas. We're all the same Fiona. So getting on the same page with them has been really, really interesting because they have perspectives that I just wouldn't think of.
Yeah, yeah. As a parent of a young child, I have to agree that seeing some of the choices your own kid makes makes you think more about the choices you're making in your life, let alone as an actor, we're like, oh, that's an interesting choice, these younger actors made about the same character that we're playing, and that then informs the choices you make, especially shouldering the
Yes.
burden of the main role of the grown-up Fiona.
Yes, and they're so funny. So it's really not hard to pull from them because they're just great actresses.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, at least in the time that I've been doing this podcast in like 4 to 5 years, like, yeah, this is not like we haven't had something like this before. It's so very exciting, very, very new. How about like the rest of the show? Just being there at rehearsals and seeing all the other actors and the roles coming together and the chemistry. Like, tell us about all of that.
Yes, absolutely. It's really amazing because Matt Roitman is playing Shrek in the musical. I have known Matt for 10 years. We did a show together literally 10 years ago, brought me both to Matt and to Karen. And we've been remained very good friends throughout that time and have always said like I'd love to do a show opposite you where we can like play opposite each other, and we keep doing shows together where our characters either do not interact or are like two ships passing in the night. So we've done shows together technically, but we've never actually gotten to like have fun together on stage. So it's been really amazing to like finally get the chance to just be funny on stage with him because it helps that I've known him for so long because sometimes I feel like we can just kind of read each other's minds and see, oh, I am like, oh, he's doing this, so I'm going to counter and do this. Plus, he's an amazing actor. So there's also that. That also helps. So it's really, really fun performing alongside of him. And Apollo, who's playing Donkey, is someone who's completely new to my life. So I kind of have both sides of the same coin where I've known Matt for a very long time and Apollo I just met, but it's I mean, he's somebody that like I instantly just fell in love with, not even like through rehearsals, just at callbacks. So he's been just wonderful to like discover as an actor and as a person.
Yeah. And there's something else that's I find really interesting about this show. When I was talking to Karen promoting auditions,
Mhm.
how she mentioned how like even the ensemble sort of all have like a main role of like a character that they're
Yeah.
playing, not just like part of the crowd, which they might also have some roles like that. But like, so what is it like to
Yeah.
be in a show where like, yeah, everybody's got like a serious like title, like a character name, you know?
It's so fun. I mean, I wish every show was like that, where everybody could have a named character that could just shine. But it's so, I mean, watching the like ensemble rehearsals and seeing them practice and either do scenes together on stage or dance together on stage, like it is insane the amount of talent coming off of like that stage when the ensemble's all together. And I love that like it's Shrek is a very different beast in that, you know, it's not a musical where it's a line of like a nameless chorus line. Everybody is praised for their individuality, both in the show and then also on stage, just as humans. So I love that, like, it gets to be all of our shows collectively as opposed to, like, just the lead show, which sometimes it can feel like that when you're in a nameless ensemble show.
Right, right. So I'm asking this of all the people we're having on the podcast, but just in case somebody's only exposure to Shrek are the movies, what could they expect that's exciting and different about the musical?
That's a great question. I think the best thing about Shrek is that it is one of those musicals that adds to the source material. So obviously, the show will have all those moments that I think everybody knows and loves, like the lines that everybody recognizes, the little scenes that are just absolutely iconic that we've been quoting for years. Those moments are in there, but then there are also new moments that, I think, again, bring a lot of heart to the story that the movie does get to explore, but just not as much in depth. The Act One finale, I stand by, is one of the most beautiful songs in musical theater ever written, which is not something you would really expect for Shrek the Musical, but it's truly just such a gorgeous number that encapsulates the feelings of Shrek and Fiona and Donkey, but especially Shrek. So there's that. And then also, I think what makes it so fun about doing a fairy tale show is that you get to have a little bit of theater magic on stage to do the things that are easy to do in an animated movie, but not necessarily as easy to do on stage. So the ways we've kind of worked that theater magic in, I think is going to be really exciting for the audience to see.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I'm
Yeah.
excited now. That's the first I'm hearing of it. So very excited.
I won't spoil anything more,
Good,
but
good.
it's going to be pretty great.
You mentioned how you're doing event stuff, like you're stage managing events, and how
Essentially.
you're a writer. Even just like sort of it implies how you phrase that. Like, I want to know about the ways that being in the performing arts has informed your life when you're in your day job or when you're a writer, and then vice versa, how like when you're outside of the performing arts, how that maybe informs your choices as an actor.
Absolutely. I love this question. I say all the time that I think theater is one of the most versatile activities or hobbies to do as kids because you learn so much from it, so many social skills, so many skills that are just applicable to your adult life for when you go on to college or onto a job, whatever that may be. I think for me specifically in events, theater has taught me more than anything to just think on my feet and be okay with improvising because even if you have everything perfectly planned, just like in a show, something will likely go wrong, and you have to be ready to adapt to it and turn around and make a new plan on the spot so that the show keeps going on because it's not going to stop for a little tiny mistake. You're going to have to keep pushing through it. You're going to have to pick up the prop that fell on the ground or, find a replacement for somebody last minute. So I think theater has helped me be very flexible in that way, in that I can, kind of turn things around on a dime if I need to. And then for event planning, I would say on that side of things, it has definitely made me a more organized person, I think, than I previously was, which has helped a lot just in terms of like, this is like so small, but like my binder maintenance for my script and making sure everything's tabbed, making sure I have a detailed character analysis that I can refer to, things that, I probably wouldn't have put too much thought into previously. I think I put a lot more care into, especially now as someone who also writes, who loves making characters and loves like giving them backstories. It just kind of it's something that like leaks into the performing world in a really lovely way.
That is, I love that answer. That is such a good answer. It makes me think though, even like taking it even a step further, like to be able to adapt it on stage, you have to know all your lines. You have to know your character. You have to, like you said, the character analysis. So like even in the real, quote unquote real world, the non-theater world, you have to be prepared. You still have to know your stuff. Like you can't improv
Yeah.
it and like just try to make it up as you go. You have to like, you might not have the binder on you, but you've prepared and you've read the binder, so you know everything that's in it. So when you know what hits the fan, you could adapt and like go with the flow.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's really good. I love that. So something I like to ask all of our guests about, as long as I remember, is, the pandemic, threw a big wrench into a lot of things, but especially things that happen in person, like the performing arts. So what was your experience with the pandemic?
Yeah, the pandemic actually, I had a very interesting journey with it. I mentioned that I moved home to Chicago from New York City. I did that right at the very end of 2018. So for all of 2019, I spent that year saving up. I was 22, I was living with my parents. I did do a few shows during that time, but mostly it was, just things to kind of just have for fun in the background as I saved some money with the initial plan to move to LA. That was my goal for a very long time because at that point in my life I was like, I'm going to be a screenwriter and an actor, a screen actor. So I spent all of 2019 saving up for that and then quit my job at the end of 2019, told myself I'd give myself a month to kind of decompress and start preparing and start making plans to do that move. Fully had a whole plan in place come February 2020. That obviously did not happen. I did not move to LA. I had to kind of sit and reevaluate some things in my life. And honestly, the big thing that surprised me was I was sitting here thinking, okay, well, I need to get to LA. I need to get to LA. Like, I need to get back to performing. And I realized as more and more time passed that I wasn't missing performing, that it was actually kind of a relief not to have to be hustling so much and to constantly be like trying to find the next gig or the next show or the next job. And that led me to taking a little bit of a break from performance because it kind of hit me that I had spent so much of my life performing for other people and not doing it simply because I loved it. And once I had that like distance from it because of the pandemic, I was like, okay, I think I need to wait until I genuinely miss the show and genuinely miss doing shows again. And that took 3 years. It took 3 years for me to get back to that place. And come, I think it was 2021 for New Year's Eve, I made a resolution with myself. I said, no, not 2021. That was way too soon. 2022 or 2023. One of the two. I don't remember. Time has no meaning after the pandemic. At that time, I told myself and made a New Year's resolution that I was going to do a show, but only if it was with a theater I knew, with a creative team that I knew, and a show that I absolutely loved that I'd always wanted to do. And literally right after I made that New Year's resolution, a month later, Big Deal Productions, which is the theater company that I'd worked with quite a few times in the past, announced that they were doing Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, which is one of my favorite shows ever. And that it was a creative team that I knew. It was Karen Schumann directing, Aaron Kaplan music directing, both of whom I'd worked with before. And again, at Big Deal, which I had worked at in the past as well. And I was like, okay, universe, I get it. You've given me the sign. I need to go back to doing this. And so I did Cinderella. I played the stepsister in Cinderella, had a blast doing that. And it was this really lovely process of doing a show and taking a lot of time to like think about why I was doing the show and what it was about performing that I loved outside of, the praise or the applause or the validation or what have you. I wanted to find what I loved about theater and why it meant so much to me, like when I was a kid. And what I discovered was it was the people. It was the people that I loved being around. It was making a tiny community for yourself for a couple of months and then having friends for life. After that, I still talk to people in Cinderella. I still talk to people that, again, I've known Matt Reutemann for 10 years from that show. I just was in the wedding of one of my really good friends that I met in that show as well. It made me realize that, like, yes, doing the show is amazing and putting on this piece of work that you put in so much effort and time and love with this community of people. That's amazing. And like the applause when people finally get to see your product is amazing as well. But my favorite parts, honestly, are the rehearsals and getting ready for the show and getting to hang out with my castmates and getting to know them and just genuinely having like these connections that I will hopefully have 10 years in the future to look forward to. So the pandemic was rough in a lot of ways, but I think it did help me rediscover what was so important to me about doing theater, and it was telling stories with people that I love.
Yeah, yeah. So you could hear the old cliche a million times, but you
Mhm.
learned through lived experience that it's not the destination. It's
Yes,
the
it's
journey.
very much the journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, very
All
true.
right. Yeah, that's a great pandemic takeaway from
Yeah.
something that you were a part of. You said you were taking voice lessons since 11?
Yeah, and I honestly, when I started to miss theater, I went back to voice lessons first because the thing that I missed the most was singing. It was just I don't know, there's this, like, indescribable feeling of, like, telling a story through song that I think if you're a singer, you get it, like, you understand, and I think if you're an audience member, you understand what it's like to see someone go on a journey through song, and that's what I missed. So, when I started singing again, it was kind of like my first step back into remembering what it was about theater that I loved.
Yeah. So this is gonna be a hard question for you then. But I
Okay.
don't make you pick only one, you could pick several. I'd like to know, like, what have been some of the your favorite shows that you've been in over all these years?
That's a great question. That is tough. This is gonna sound so cheesy, and I know the show isn't over, but I do think Shrek is shaping up to be my favorite show I've ever been in, just because I love the team, and I love the show, and I love the story, and I love Fiona so much. That's my cheesy answer, but I do think it very much is true. It's honestly my favorite show is usually the show I'm doing at the time, just because it's the most important thing in my life to me at that moment. But I think Shrek in particular is so special, and there's something just very, very different about this show compared to other shows that I've been in. There's a camaraderie, there's this like instant love and acceptance that I just, not that I haven't felt before, but that I think is like visceral almost in a way that I haven't experienced in a while.
Mm.
So I'm having a great time. And it's cheesy, but I do think it's Shrek.
Okay, that made me think of another first-time question for the podcast.
Okay.
So my daughter is a huge princess fan. I mean, she's 5, almost 5. Who's not at that age if you're into that? But
Mhm.
like princesses today are very different from like princesses of back in the day. And she loves Fiona. Like she puts Fiona up there with like the Disney princesses, right? Of like she counts as a princess.
Mhm.
And Fiona is tough. Like Fiona could take
Yeah.
care of herself. Like she doesn't need Shrek, right? Like Shrek needs
Yeah.
Fiona. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, but she also really loves Rapunzel. And like Rapunzel's also like
My favorite.
she's able to take care of herself. You know, she lived on her own
Yeah.
forever. Like, and this is like the Disney tangled, princess
Mhm.
Rapunzel, right? So like she's like, she beats the bad guys with the frying pan. She could do all these crazy acrobatics with her hair. Fiona knows martial arts, and it's like
Yeah.
I don't want to know who I don't. It's not like who would win in a fight because that's very much like little boy way to think about it. But because like let's be real, like they're also very smart characters, and they would be
Mhm.
friends. They would not fight.
Yes, I do think they would be instant best friends.
Right? But like, okay, but
Yeah.
so let's say like there's like a tournament, right? Of like toughest
Mhm.
princesses. And not necessarily they're fighting, but like toughest like who I mean, I don't know. I mean they like Fiona versus Tangled's Rapunzel. Like, I don't know, like who's more rough and tumble? Who could beat up more bad guys, maybe? Let's put it that way.
I do think Mulan would win in that fight, to be honest. Mulan
I
has
think she
been
has a
to
higher body count, that's for sure.
yeah, Mulan's been to war, which, not to say that, like, makes her more tough, but I do think she has perhaps some field experience that necessarily some of the other princesses don't have.
So none of the above is the answer. It's Mulan. Pick a different princess.
I would say Mulan, but I mean, I think if I had to, like, put Rapunzel and Fiona together, even though I love them both so dearly, I do think they both have these like beautiful, naive, romantic spirits. But I also think that Fiona can like lock in and kick butt when she needs to. So I would say Fiona.
Also locked in a
But
tower, right? Like, so like they have that in
yeah,
common, right? They had to,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay. I'm sure that's not the first comparison between Fiona and Rapunzel because of the whole locked in a tower thing.
Oh, there might be a little hint of it in one of the
All right,
songs.
all right.
Mhm.
That's a good. So we'll end it there. Tell me if if that's not a good enough teaser. If this is your last chance to get butts and seats, and people are not convinced to come see the show, why should they come see Deerfield Theater's production of Shrek the Musical?
Oh man, that's a tough question. There's so many reasons. I think if you want to see something classic and iconic on stage from either your childhood or your kid's childhood, it's going to satiate that part of you. If you want to see something heartwarming and beautiful and tell a story of self acceptance that I think is really needed, it's a message that's really needed in this day and age. I think that's a huge reason to come see the show. I think it's a great show for kids to see because the whole message of the show at the end of the day is what one of the lines in one of the songs is what makes us special makes us strong. And it's kind of the thesis of the show in that every person is different, everybody has their quirks, everybody has their insecurities, but at the end of the day, those things are what make us beautiful and strong and make us the people we are and aren't something to be ashamed of, which I think is something that everybody's heart needs to hear every once in a while. So, I think if you want to feel good, come see it.
Great. Well, we're not going to get any better than that. McKenna, if I mean you let me know. I could always edit this part out. Like, if people want to know, like, when your book is releasing or other shows you're in, I don't know, should they follow you on social media? Do you want to like promote your a social media handle? Okay, yeah.
Sure.
Where
Yeah,
should people follow
I'll
you?
promote.
Yeah.
You can follow me so I use an author name on my Instagram, which is McKenna Brook, which is my middle name. So if you want to follow me on TikTok or Instagram, you can follow me at McKenna Brook Author on both of those pages to kind of get an update on what's happening. I've been posting about Shrek and I've been posting about my books. So you can get a little bit of both.
All right. Love it. Thanks. Well, stick around because we'll need to upload to the cloud. But I'll thank you one last time. Thanks so much again for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This was truly such a wonderful day. Way to spend a Tuesday.
And that's our show. Please share this podcast to help support the work of Deerfield Theater. An even better way to support us is to go see Shrek the Musical. To purchase tickets, visit deerfieldtheater.com or click the link in the show notes. Thank you to the production staff and cast for Shrek the Musical. Please follow us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your preferred listening app to never miss an episode. Until next time, thanks to everyone who continues to support the arts. We'll see you at the theater.